Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for another interview on The Successful Linguist. Today I'm with Marta Stelmaszak. Marta, welcome to the call.
Hiya, hi. It's
Hi.
nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. Actually, just for the listeners, Marta has just shown me her mug. I would like you to see this as well.
Okay, we were just chatting about how well prepared I am for this interview. I have a translation-related mug and a translation-related coaster.
Isn't that brilliant? Okay, Marta, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewers?
Sure, I'm a Polish English translator and interpreter. I work mostly with small and medium enterprises based either here in the UK, because I'm also based in London, or in Poland. So I work mostly in legal, marketing, and business translation, enabling businesses in these two cultures, in these two countries, to communicate with each other. I also have a bit of a business background. I'm almost an economist, just a couple more months, and I'll be able to say I am a translator and an economist. And I have also some training in marketing, business mentoring, so that's sort of a variety of skills that I'm using to deliver translation and interpreting services to my clients.
Okay, wow. So did you get started in the translation industry right after uni, or did you work in a different career beforehand?
Translation is my first career and hopefully the only career. I'm not planning any career changes anytime soon. But in fact, I started working as a translator and interpreter even before I graduated. Even in Poland, the demand for people who were able to speak English was so high that just because you could do it, and if you could do it well, then that meant that you pretty much got the job. Of course, that weren't the greatest conditions ever, but at least a lot of my work was proofread by more senior colleagues in the beginning. And then when I moved to the UK, I took a diploma in public service interpreting, and that enabled me to work as a court interpreter. And that's how I sort of got into translation and interpreting.
Okay, and so how did you find your first paying clients?
So as I said, the situation in Poland back then was slightly different because just imagine a country that sort of just joined the idea of a free market, and there were so many products that were entering the country and so many translations were needed that basically anybody who had the skill got sort of was taken on board by translation agencies, then emerging in very large numbers. And I was sort of, because I studied languages, English and French, I sort of joined the whole cohort of young translators who were supervised by more senior colleagues. So that's how I found my first client when I still was very, very junior in Poland. But then when I moved here to the UK, I think DPSI was a big change in my career because it was a formal recognized qualification. I was able to work a lot in courts, also do some medical interpreting in the past. So I got quite a healthy number of public service clients, but also through working in courts, meeting lawyers, I managed to get many contacts with law firms or solicitors or barristers. So that's how I sort of started getting more and more clients.
Interesting. Okay, and so is that still what you do today, or what do you do today to market your services?
I don't do as much interpreting as I used to, especially not for public services. I mean, business interpreting is still there, but public services, so many changes, and I'm sure that our listeners are aware of the whole of all the difficulties around court interpreting, especially in the UK. So it has gradually decreased over the years, but also I think it was perhaps a good change for me because working in a difficult setting because we're talking about criminal courts, about crime, or about mental health interpreting. So these are all very difficult issues. So they always take their toll on you. So I was also quite relieved to switch to another side of the market. So I started reaching out to business clients. So I started trying to find Polish businesses and Polish business people in the UK, but also British businesses that needed these sort of services. So the first thing I started doing was to attend events where my clients were. So I signed up to many Polish business clubs or Polish British Chamber of Commerce, and I started attending their events just to make sure I'm around people who exist in the same market and may need my services. So that face-to-face marketing, face-to-face networking with my potential clients was crucial because they were, even if they didn't need my services directly, they always knew somebody who did. So just handing out my business cards, and some of them were asking not for one, but 3 or 4 or 5, because they knew so many people who needed translations and interpreters. And especially because I had a decent business background, they knew that apart from just translating in their mind, I could deliver some added value there. And I think I also benefited from living in London because there are so many Polish people, so many Polish businesses in here, that it was relatively easy for me to meet my potential clients. But apart from that, I didn't want to restrict myself just to finding local clients, so I developed quite a broad online presence with my website and social media, just to make sure, and my blog, of course, to reach out to clients who weren't here, but who needed my services.
Okay, and so today you work mostly with direct clients or with agencies?
With direct clients, yes. Yeah, they are a vast majority of my client base at the moment.
Okay, interesting. So I saw that there was one particular marketing tool you used that I found very intriguing. You explained in a video that 83% of clients were more likely to buy a product or service if the translation for that product or service was done by you, which I'm sure makes you very attractive with potential translation buyers. So I was just wondering whether you could share a bit more about how you went about this.
So the whole idea came to my mind when I attended one of the regional events organized by the Chartered Institute of Marketing, and there was a copywriting company there who tried to find a way how to show the value of their copywriting services to their clients. So what they were doing, they were taking existing text from their clients' websites and showing them the improved version done by them. And that's when I thought, what about doing a similar thing in the translation industry to show our clients the link between the quality of translation and the likelihood of others buying their products or services. So I did a bit of market research and looked at what are the costs of conducting such a relatively big survey in Poland. And I found 3 market research companies that were able to do it, and they presented me with the quotes for asking a few questions and getting about 1,000 responses to them. And then I just I took samples of existing translations, very short, from translated websites. And I improved these translations, going back to the source, and presented a better version. And the whole survey was very simple. It was asking respondents to say which text encourages you to buy the product more and why. And there were also some questions like which text makes you trust the brand more, or which text sounds less like advertising and things like that, just to get a taste or an overview of what were the client's feelings about the text. So it took about 2 or 3 weeks to conduct the survey, and then I just received the results, and my designer put them in a sort of a nice brochure, and that's it. So it wasn't that big of an investment as I thought. I was prepared to pay much more money for it. Okay. So I think it already paid for itself, because I sent it to all of my existing clients the first thing, and they all came back to me saying that the results are amazing, and they were sort of reassured that what they're paying for is really worth it.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that in so much detail. I appreciate that. Okay, and I saw that you have the video on your website, and I thought the website in general looks very professional. What do you consider to be sort of the most important features and functionalities of a website, and what pointers could you give to new translators, or maybe even those of us who would like to upgrade our existing sites?
I think what was really important for me about my website was that it matches my clients' expectations. If I work mostly with businesses, mostly with small and medium businesses who really pay a lot of attention to their brand, to the values they present, I had to make sure that my website reflects that they see me as a trustworthy supplier for them. And this is why they set the benchmark quite high, and I just had to match it. And I think it was a very good investment for me, because again, all of my clients are quite impressed with how the website looks like. And it also, for them, it's nice to know that their suppliers care about similar things and similar values. I think the most important features or functionalities of a website actually are not related to the website itself. I think the most important thing about it is that it is actually found, that people know about the website, that it exists. And by being found, I don't mean only and necessarily search engine optimization and being found on Google, but also letting everybody know that this website is out there, and inviting them to visit it. So in a way, I think that doing as much as we can in terms of, here is the marketing buzzword, inbound marketing, so attracting people to come to our website by providing good content, like a blog that our clients may want to read, so that they come again and again to our website, is extremely important. And the second feature of a website that I think is extremely important is to make it about our clients, so that the website tells a story, a convincing story to a potential client of what they can gain through using our services, rather than just concentrating on ourselves, on what we know, how many years we've worked as a translator. Switch the perspective and talk about the benefits for the client. And apart from that, the details, such as the design or the colors, or whether it has a slider, or how many boxes or how many columns are on the first page, and how many subpages, these are all details that really can vary, even depending on what we like or what our clients like. But we need to be sure that the website is about our clients and that they can actually find it.
Wow. Thank
now
you.
I feel like a little expose on website.
Yeah, no, but it was great. Thank you. So, and you also run an online course for freelance translators, the Translators Business School. Can you also tell us more about that?
Sure, and it just turned 1 year a couple of weeks ago, so I'm very proud. We had 6 editions so far, and the 7th one starts in March this year. And the whole idea was, it actually came from Lucy Brooks from ECPD Webinars, who's been following my blog, and sometime in December 2012, she just wrote to me with this great idea. What about putting up a course based on it. So I think the whole idea behind the course is to combine this sort of positive attitude to our job, because if you read my blog, or if you follow me on Twitter and Facebook, you'll see that I concentrate on the positive side, on the positive aspect, and just try to encourage everybody to do the same. So in the course, I combined that with some pretty serious and pretty heavy business knowledge. So in the course, we're learning how to apply some strategies, how to apply some rules that people study at MBAs or at business schools, and combine that with this positive outlook. And I think it's the mix of all that, and the fact that we have this community where we also learn from each other, because during the first lesson, I always tell my students that knowledge is not something that happens just here. Knowledge is something that happens when two people or a group of people exchange their experience. So I do encourage everybody to talk about what they know and share it. So I think this is perhaps the biggest asset of the course, because now we have over 126 students who completed the course. So imagine how much knowledge there is around there. And I'm always very happy to see everybody chatting and asking questions and commenting on each other's questions. So this is sort of this attitude of, or this positive approach, and combining experience and combining serious business knowledge.
Great. So for our viewers, if you want to find out more about Marta's Business School for Translators, I've put the links below the video, so do have a look. I just wanted to ask you as well, what do you do if you've received too much work? Like, do you ever subcontract projects, or?
If I have too much work, I have a team of translators I work with, and I've worked with them for a couple of years, and I always ask my clients if they're fine with it, that I do it with my team, but then I'm always the person who's doing the final editing and final proofreading, so the whole responsibility for it is still with me. And my clients always know about it, that there are some other people involved in translating the text. That doesn't happen too often, because I usually tell my clients about my schedule for about a week, 2 or 3 weeks in advance, and they are also planning their workload. So I usually, in the beginning of the month, I email them to agree if they are going to have any projects or not, and we sort of manage that together. And I think clients appreciate that as well, because I'm helping them be disciplined about their translations, which is a part of a service for some of them, because they know that they have to plan everything in advance, and then it runs much smoother.
That's a brilliant tip in and of itself, I think. Okay. So, and one last question before we wrap up. Could you share with us, like, the most important lesson you learned along the way, or maybe something you would have liked to know at the beginning of your translation career?
I think that in the beginning, the problem I had, and I think many young and junior translators have, is that we tend to think that translation is such a tiny, little, unimportant thing in the whole business world, that we feel sort of intimidated, or we feel that our clients have the right to tell us things, tell us how much they are going to pay us, or when they are going to pay us. And that isn't the best environment to work in. So what I know now that I would have liked to know when I started is that translation is actually a necessary, a very big and very important part in how business people run their international businesses. And what I know now is that translation is actually an access, it is like access to market. So what I'm selling is not words on paper, I'm selling the future of this company in my home country. And just knowing that gives you so much power. And because you know that it's not about what's there on the paper, it's about what this company, what your services are allowing this company to achieve, and how much profit they're going to make on this market. Just knowing that gives you so much power and so much confidence to go out there and say, no, this is how much you're going to pay me.
Yep.
So I think this is very important, and I wish every new translator thought about what they were doing that way, because this really changed my approach to how I was running my translation business.
Well, it does change your whole outlook when you're aware of, the value that you provide.
Exactly, yes, yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you. Okay, so thank you very much for your time today, for sharing all this brilliant information with us. I really enjoyed speaking with you. Like I said, if you want to find out more about Marta and the Business School for Translators, I've put some links below the video, so make sure you check them out. If you like this video, please share it with your colleagues. Thank you for watching, and see you next time on The Successful Linguist.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.